The funniest thing because I hear these very oddly specific things from clients. And so the funniest one I heard is in terms of the best place he got focused is actually the toilet.
That's not that weird. That's not that weird. I'm with your buddy. I'm totally with your buddy.
I don't know exactly. I'm not talking, I mean, actually scientifically, but I think there is an extra dopamine hit that happens because you're completing the two things simultaneously that I think just goes deep into the cells of
You're talking about the poo for one theory.
The poo for one. Exactly. Aaron, that was genuinely really fucking funny. That was genuinely a really good dad joke. All right, my name is Stephen Tonti, and my co-host is here with me,
Aaron Smith.
And this is the Attention Different podcast. Today, we are uniquely excited. I know I say that every episode, and I'll probably keep saying it because it's a whole host of our best friends. And without further ado, we have another one in the house today. If you've ever been curious about the intersection of ADHD and entrepreneurship, this is the episode for you. Today, we are thrilled and delighted to have Elan Marko on the show, who's on a mission to help ADHD entrepreneurs consistently accomplish their goals faster and beat the procrastination, perfectionism, and stress that gets in the way. Elan's coaching company, Deep Work Sprints, is dedicated to that purpose. Without further ado, Elan Marko, welcome to Attention Different. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. Aaron, what do you got?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we really wanted to talk with you about is your innovative coaching style and program and what you've learned. You've been doing some research and have a particular bend on this that I think a lot of people don't do. And that is this deep work model with a sprint. And can you kind of tell our listeners how you came up with that and what that really is all about? Deep work sprints.
Yeah. So it's a mashup of all sorts of things that have worked for me in the past. Sprints being because I like working fast and working in short chunks with very clear finish lines. And deep work because in order to get the things done that are important, you sort of have to go into a deep work mode. Cal Newport's book about deep work is sort of inspired part of that. So it's inspired partly by like Google's model of doing design sprints really quickly and Cal Newport's deep work. I have ADHD myself, and I've had it my whole life, but I didn't actually get diagnosed until COVID, which I'm sure lots of listeners here, like there's a huge spike in diagnosis for ADHD during COVID. And there's so many reasons for that because so much of our lives, our habits, our rituals, our environment changed. And then it obviously highlighted a bunch of the challenges during that time. But yeah, when I got diagnosed, it was the moment of a diagnosis with no manual. So like, what do I do now? And also, I had realized I'd been working as a coach and consultant for small businesses and entrepreneurs for 10 years. And I didn't realize until that point where I'm listening to all the books and I'm studying everything on ADHD, I'm like, these are all my clients that I've been working with. And this explains why I've had to work so hard on coming up with novel ways to not just have people create great plans, but so much more on the implementation side to like actually get things done and to the finish line. We've had to find all these workarounds. So then that led me to actually do a study on ADHD entrepreneurs to learn more about this. Cause I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one here. I've worked with a lot of them. And so I put a call out to the world. And a lot of people raised their hand being like, I'd love to learn more about how my ADHD is working and how it's impacting business. And then there were some really great insights that came from all of that. But that helped inform then the program that got built subsequently.
Tell us more about the study. How did you do the study?
Yeah.
How long was it?
So the study I did in pure deep work and sprint fashion. I spent 2 months interviewing. Originally, it was going to be 10 to 15 entrepreneurs. It ended up blowing up to like 35-ish. We had like 400 pages of notes printed. I had to condense them. I printed them all onto a wall. Like basically an entire bedroom was filled with all the data. There were like 60 questions. There were 2-hour-long interviews. And then there were 2 interviews for each person. So in that were all the questions of like, what have been your biggest struggles? What has helped you? What have you tried that hasn't helped you? And all sorts of things in terms of, people rating procrastination, perfectionism, analysis paralysis, revenue issues, consistency. So all of that data was there, and I put it together. I put a panel of advisors and I presented my findings. So like any good ADHDer, we work well in performance mode. And because I had this like Shark Tank panel that I had to present all the findings and what I propose, everything got done really like quite quickly. I definitely had some people who they had done master's theses or whatever, and they're like, how the heck did you pull this together in 2 months?
Yeah. Wait, was this for some kind of like educational credit or something, or you just did this on the side?
This was for me because I became hyper obsessed about this because it's something I've lived with my whole life. And I sort of knew whatever I was going to be doing next was going to be based on this. And within the first 10 interviews, I was like, holy smokes, there is something so clear and so obvious. Like the deep personal costs that people were faced with, like the five most personal costs was feeling they haven't reached their potential, people being really hard on themselves, losing thousands and thousands of dollars a month, just left on the table because of things they're not finishing and completing, and talk about all those monthly expenses that they just forgot about and keep paying, and things like stress and lost relationships, like divorces, bankruptcy, dissolution of business partnerships. So there's like some real deep personal costs that majority of people had of the things I just listed, like 2 or 3 of those at some point in their life. And so it clearly was something really impacting people. And then the questions still emerge of like, okay, so what do you do with this? And also, how do you help this? And what are the differences between those that are succeeding with ADHD and those that are earlier stage or more struggling?
And did all of the participants you were studying have ADHD or diagnosed with ADHD?
Good question. So there was a variation between people who were diagnosed. So they're self-reporting in this, but they are either reporting that they are diagnosed or self-diagnosed, like / self-identifying. And so we did have a mix, probably like, I would say, I'd have to go back to the numbers. It was a couple of years ago now that I ran the first study, but it probably was like a 50-50 breakdown of people who are self-diagnosed, like really identifying with it. Some fascinating things were all these people wanted to get help, and 2/3 of them said that the help they received wasn't helpful. And that was really weird to me because they're really like trying to get help. And so that was really insightful. And so the reasons that they found it not helpful was if the person was more clinical. Even though they say they have studied and understand ADHD, they didn't think the person actually understood ADHD.
Hey, Steven here. Sorry to interrupt. We just wanted to take a brief moment to tell you about this week's sponsor. At Attention Different, our mission is simple. Offer ADHD adults proven practical strategies for living a more balanced, fulfilled ADHD life. And that is why we are thrilled to offer our latest course, Thriving with Adult ADHD. While other courses might focus on the pain and struggle of being an adult with ADHD, and we do not want to minimize that, this course is designed around accessible, relevant, and applicable techniques that address the most common challenges facing ADHD adults. Inside Thriving with Adult ADHD, you will learn how to improve focus by using tools to cut through distractions and get things done. Learn to manage your energy for productivity without burnout. You'll learn to shift your mindset beyond survival mode and instead focus on personal growth. Thriving with Adult ADHD features 2 hours of on-demand video, 10 downloadable resources, lifetime access to the material, and a satisfaction guarantee. Go to attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. That's attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. Hey, thanks for the quick break. Now back to the interview.
What were those treatments or coaching interventions that didn't work? What were they doing wrong? What were the things, because I'm curious about this.
So yeah, it was a mix of the things they were talking about. Was either some sort of coaching program or or therapy that they went to, like clinical therapy. But I don't have more specifics on the like what exactly the therapist is, more at a high level. The common sentiment from everybody's words without being like prompted by it was that
Mhm.
either they felt the person didn't understand ADHD, it just felt too clinical and like boring, and something's wrong with them. And so these people, they're entrepreneurs, they're driven, like they're ambitious, and they want something that meets them. Okay, I get what you're going through. I understand ADHD. And number two, there's some sort of more fun to it. Maybe I'm saying like, what's the opposite of clinical, right? More humanity. And I've heard that before, where a lot of success in therapy is how much do you think your therapist cares about you? Which is a very, what
Yeah.
would you say? You're an actual therapist,
Yeah, yeah.
Aaron.
No, I get it because I'm kind of the hybrid, right? I'm the coach and the therapist combined. So I have a bit of
Yeah.
a, inside baseball insight into this. And yeah, it is actually one of the reasons why I mostly like call myself a coach, even though I'm also a licensed clinical therapist. And it's more of that like modality, right? I think sometimes goes wrong when a therapist tries to be too generalist and tries to say, like, oh, I can treat everything under the sun,
Right.
Mm.
right? I have this licensure. I obviously don't do that. I kind of focus on what are the things that I feel confident in, I know that I can treat.
Yeah.
And I refer out for other things, but not every therapist does that, right? Some people may think they understand ADHD because they've read about it, but they don't live in the shoes of someone with ADHD. And
Mm.
that can sometimes come across as, it's not that every therapist needs to have the condition that they treat, but they really need to understand it, right? We know therapists like Ari Tuckman who don't have ADHD, we've had on this podcast, and he's amazing and, but he understands it and he speaks to it in a way that I
Yeah.
think doesn't talk down to the people, doesn't make them feel like they're being belittled, that kind of stuff. And I think there's just a different approach too. So yeah, I get it. Like I think that the coaching model of being on someone's team, not necessarily always focusing on problems, but kind of helping the person, being on the side of this person and kind of helping them craft their course and support them in the ways they need and kind of customize, individualize um, their goals, their interventions. That I think can be really helpful because they feel heard, they feel validated, and I think
Mm.
in therapy, it's kind of there's a separation oftentimes. There's like I'm the person with the degree, I'm the expert, you're the client,
Right.
you have all the problems. But I think in a coaching relationship, one of the things I like to do is bring my own personal stuff into it where it's
Mhm.
appropriate, right? I
Mhm.
let people know, like, hey, I'm human. I have flaws. I may, have tried different things and know a little bit more about some interventions or tools and strategies because I've been researching, looking into this stuff full time, right? You're a busy
Right.
person. But hey, I still make mistakes. I still have things to learn and I'm learning along with you. And so it's that parallel process that I find that's really respectful. It helps people feel seen and heard.
Right. And that
Yeah.
you're not perfect, and we're not
Yeah.
even trying to aim for perfection either. And I think those are good conversations to have with people. Like, people want to be 100% consistent with what they're doing. And that was actually one of the most interesting, probably the biggest stat was when I asked people, how likely are you to achieve your goals if you could consistently finish what you need to do each week? And everyone would be like, oh my god, yes, 100%. It was like, I would be a millionaire like 3 years ago, and they're like trying to convince me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I believe you. So consistency is something that I think is challenging for those with ADHD in certain areas. Like, there might be certain areas they're very consistent, and other areas that are challenging. And so that became a big focus of mine. But interestingly, before I got diagnosed, like probably 6 months earlier, I was working with a business coach.
Mm.
And the business coach point blank said to me, hey, Elan, do you have ADHD? And I go, oh, yeah, I have ADHD. Kind of like, and she's like, no, like, do you actually have ADHD?
Hmm.
And I go, well, I mean, I haven't been diagnosed, but like, yeah, I mean, my whole life, I pretty much just sort of assumed that I have it. And she goes, okay, because if you do have ADHD, these obstacles that we keep coming into each week that we're working on, like, there are people that are actually specialized in this and could probably help you better.
Mm.
And so that was really interesting. And she had me look up something, and I don't know, some article about, and it was a story from someone's ADHD story. And I read it. I'm like, holy shoot, that is me. Like, like this person wrote my story. And so
Also, I know that you're Canadian and a sweetheart, but our producer David would like to let you know that you can say fucking shit on this podcast.
okay, perfect. Because I've been live censoring.
Yes, we've been tracking your live censoring, and you can leave the shoots behind. Yeah, who was this mentor? Who stepped in and told you to read this article?
So yeah, this Laura Banks. Anyways, so she was coaching me, and yeah, and then so that was really great because as soon as I read that, that sort of planted a seed, and then like 6 months later, in continuation of challenges around these things.
What were some of the challenges you yourself were facing at that time?
Well, as I was saying, like my energy level was low. Like I love being hyper focused and like in the zone and obsessed about something. Like you saw me the way I obsess about, this ADHD study or whatever. I always like need a thing, and so I just, first of all, energy was low. I wasn't motivated with work. I wasn't like following through with much each week. I was sort of down that I wasn't finishing things that I wanted to work on. And yeah, and then when I got the diagnosis, it sort of was like, okay, this explains some of this, but still there's like, okay, well, what do I do?
Wait, how did COVID layer into that too? Was it?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we think about, like what happened in COVID, we all got isolated and locked down. And have you heard the thing with, who was it? They talk about vitamin C, Vitamin Connect. Like the fact that, I get a lot of energy from connecting with people. And that didn't happen, right? Like everyone's like very isolated.
Yeah.
Something that helped manage my focus and energy levels was I'm very physically active. I was very hardcore rock climber for 15 years before COVID. I rock climbed 4 or 5 days a week. Probably by that point, about 400,000 vertical feet I had climbed. I think I calculated. Like
You're hardcore.
I was constantly, every day I was physical. Then COVID, and I stayed indoors and didn't, I wasn't active anymore. So not realizing that like the physical aspect was helping manage my energy levels and interests and all that, and getting me out of the house. I worked at home. And then the social aspect was gone. So what I didn't realize is getting so many dopamine boosts and energies, like as an entrepreneur and working for myself, actually talking to people gave me the level of like interest. I could talk and process things I'm currently working on and thinking about and get energized of like, oh, some new ways of thinking about that or working on it. And so it sort of kept my flow states, between those peaks. I'd say that's like at surface level. Maybe Aaron and Steven, you guys have more ideas around it. Like,
no, I mean, that makes sense to me. Like, Steven's told me, this has been the thing that we've been talking about in our company, because Steven is much more extrovert and does thrive and get energy from people. So maybe you have some relatability here, because I think you kind of went through a bit of a downtime too in COVID.
Well, you don't have to get much deeper, brother. You're spot on. I mean, it just is what it is. I like Vitamin Connect. That's very cute.
Yeah, that's cool.
The issue seems to be on an existential level that some ADHDers, right? It's not all, but some ADHDers are extroverted extroverts is my term for it, meaning that they get their greatest battery recharge from interactions with people in real life, IRL, not through a digital medium of any kind, where we can smell, taste, touch, and sense that person in our space. There's a great deal of magic that happens in our endocrine system and with our neurotransmitters as well in our central nervous system when we are hanging out with other monkey people in real space. There seems to be a disconnect or not the full vibe acquired, if you will, through Zoom, right? Or through Riverside. So I came into the same confrontation or the same like nightmarish awakening, if you will, that there could be a world in which the greatest resource for charging my battery was taken from me by force, right? And I was not allowed to drink from that resource and must find a bunch of other like half as good resources to make myself pump dopamine regularly and noradrenaline regularly. That has persisted since COVID. just because our world has changed dramatically. Work from home has increased dramatically. A lot of people who don't have to go in the office don't go to the office. We've also learned, right, on the other side of the coin, that it's really important to go inside to the office sometimes, even if you don't technically have to work from a brick and mortar. A lot of companies 3-4 years out from the first lockdown said, hey, the research and our lived in experience is teaching us we need to go hang out with other humans in our company. Sometimes you have to have some of that time, or else we start to go kind of nuts, really. To put it bluntly, like we are a pro-social species, and to stop that on a dime was a profound and traumatizing experience for literally hundreds of millions, if not billions of people, which is, it's weird to say that. It's weird to hear myself saying that out loud, but that is true for humanity. It was extra true for ADHDers. Extra true.
It is kind of wild that we have changed so much as a society, and the fact that so much has moved remote. And yeah, I'm with you. Like I think anyone who works remote, they for the most part love the fact that they don't have to commute, that they can do laundry between meetings, like that they can like sort of tick off life tasks or whatever.
Yeah,
And
there's a convenience factor.
Yeah, there's
Hell
convenience.
yeah, there's.
But at the same point, I think you do some amount of in person. I'm with you. Like, we can hug virtually right now, but it just won't do the same thing to our bodies as like physiologically as if you actually hug. There's just no comparison.
Yeah, it's tough to listen to abstractions about this conversation because I think it is more literal than we give it credit. It's actually much more simple and literal. You need to touch each other, right? We have plenty of studies from Romanian the orphanages, right? That like horrifying studies, but it's good we have them. It's really important we have them. That like when they have no physical contact for prolonged periods of time, it leads to, again, nightmarish levels of trauma and trauma-based responses and reactions because we need to
attachment issues.
Attachment issues and I mean paranoia, anxiety, depression. I mean, like the conditions abound for not hugging your children, right? Or for not hugging each other, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and I do think there has been some collective trauma around that of like, what does it mean to be more isolated and be engaged with people on Slack and email and text and virtual screens and meeting rooms, but not engaging with people anymore face to face. So like, especially Gen Z and some of these generations who not even now are like, had grown up, right? Had gone through middle school, high school. Yeah. And they don't even have some of those pivotal times in their life where they had that connection of friends. They were going to classrooms and sitting around just in a virtual meeting with a teacher who's sometimes just playing the video, and the impact. And we're yet to really, I mean, we're going to probably see studies and stuff coming out later that's like really marking, like showing what the significance and impact of all that has been. But I think, I would venture to say that what we're going to find is there's some underdeveloped social capacity that you just don't get, right? You need that in person. There's a reason there's recess. There's a reason why there's classrooms.
Truly, there is a reason for recess should be like a title of our pending lecture, Aaron. There's a reason for recess. Like we're talking about, we're not going to get into politics, but we can discuss like shootings, right? Because they're up in our country, and assassinations in general. The folks committing these crimes are largely, it's wild, but Gen Zers online, terminally online kids who now we have a term for it, nihilistic. It's like essentially nihilism driven killings, right? There is no political affiliation. There is no the affiliation is antisocial behavior online, right? And there are kids like this all over the United States and world, tens of millions, who are supplanting physical interaction with their peers with digital interactions only. And they have built a literal virtual world around themselves. And yes, Aaron, we're going to have studies for the next 100 years coming out about this because it's tens of millions of kids, not a few thousand.
Yeah. I had to look up what nihilism was officially because I've heard it, but I just looked it up. This is what our AI is saying: is that nihilism is a philosophical view that life is without objective meaning, purpose or intrinsic value.
I also find it dramatically ironic that you're using AI to define it, just between
But
us.
how
But yes,
sad. That's
yes,
sad. So a
yes.
life without any meaning essentially is the simplest version of it. And so this whole thing of in-person and environment and like, so we know ADHD, we're impacted by environmental stimulus. Like we're audible stimulus, visual stimulus, kinesthetic touch stimulus. Like we
Oof,
happen to be
kinesthetic, so important.
responsive, right? And sounds like, Stephen, you're high on the kinesthetic touch.
Very, yeah, very.
And not surprised, not just because of you, but because like I think a lot of ADHDers have high kinesthetic on their
Yeah.
like learning style and whatnot in terms of what I'm seeing. But yeah, so I just yesterday got a message from one of my clients asking, "Hey, do you know of any in-person entrepreneurial meetups that are good that I should go to?
Right.
Like, I want to meet up with people like in person." So this person is part of like an online community. We happen to live like an hour or two apart, and yeah, of course, like I think people are looking for that in-person, like coming back to it. So to speak.
Yeah, returning to that. Yeah.
For the record, ditto. You can tell your friend that this ADHD professional is doing the exact same thing. In New Orleans, there is a Tuesday morning, 8 to 9 a.m. coffee entrepreneur meeting, and it is pure and simple. It is entrepreneurs between the ages of 25, 27, and 45 meeting for coffee and telling each other what networking events are happening. That's it. It's just an hour of us going in a circle and being like, hey, what cocktail party are you going to this week or this month? And then all these entrepreneurs are like, oh, I'll see you there. A little community is forming, right? Of people who are caring about each other, considering one another, texting each other, meeting up to have coffee, meeting up. Hey, how are you doing on that project, brother? How are you doing on that thing, sister? That I hope is a wave. I hope that's a cultural wave.
So here's a beautiful tactic for anybody because, okay, I'm just going to guess here, Stephen. Tell me how off I am.
Can't wait.
You love coffee.
Oh my God.
Correct or incorrect?
I'm David somewhere is in the background mourning the fact that he has taken at least a month off of caffeine entirely. I get a lot of my coffee snobbery from our podcast producer to admit.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I presume you go to a coffee shop more than one, like at least once or more a week for just like working from a cafe.
Used to, yes, but now I work from a co-working space and I make my own coffee. Ari, that coffee snobbery, and David, our producer.
Right.
He's too snobby to even get it.
I'm literally too snobby.
Like, don't make it like I make it. Yes,
that's not wrong. That's completely right. Yeah, like if I go to a cafe, it's to buy beans.
I guess what I was trying to get at is your like this meetup that you've started to form. Essentially, you have a need to meet up in person and whatnot. You know, how did you start that? I presume you're just like, I like this coffee shop. I'm going to start going there on Wednesday mornings, and I'll like
you mean
sort
the
of invite a
meetup?
few people. Yeah.
So flip the script. I actually said yes to an invite rather than invited. Okay. I said yes to the dress, where the dress is my sanity, in April, and joined a co-working space starting around June or July so that I could be around people. And this is an answer to your inquiry, right? I chose to go to a place where other entrepreneurs have chosen to go.
So that's like one of the findings from the study was, creating the environment that supports, like, are you in the right environment to succeed? We know we're heavily responsive to the stimulus. And so there's, I guess when I was talking to people, when I did the second call and I'm sort of giving them their findings, one of the stories I would share was of this monk who, I watched this monk tell a story where 15 years before he was in New York City, and for 5 years he went to a therapist. He was a therapist himself, but he went to therapy because he was introverted and, wanted to work on being more comfortable in social situations. But now, after meditating for 15 years, he's like, here's what I wish my therapist had asked me. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening.
I can't wait for this.
Right? Like, what did I wish my therapist had asked me 15 years ago? And it's, what is my nature? And I just thought, like, what a neat question. What is my nature? And he used this example of a rose. And he's like, imagine you're a rose, but you're going to be planted in the desert in Utah, right? Then in order to make yourself flower, you're going to need to like build me a greenhouse. Like
you're going to have to start from scratch and create the environment that supports
bring in
growth.
Irrigation and maybe the right soil nutrients and like fun and maybe managing the humidity of the greenhouse. But if you know your nature is a rose, then put yourself in a rose garden and the flower will blossom. because you're a rose and you're in a rose garden.
This is such a classic yogic thought. Like, imagine a rose in a desert. And like, already I'm there. Already I'm like, dude, I get it. That's like not the environment for that flower. like
Right.
that. Yeah. And it's so attainable. That's a very accessible piece of information that we can all glom onto, right? How simple. If you are a rose and you imagine yourself a rose, would you survive in the desert? And the person could say pretty quickly, no, I would need water and I would need a greenhouse and all these things. Right. So why are you there?
Yeah. What does that look like in practice for folks?
So I shared this with you, Stephen, because you were talking about how you realized that for you to perform well, you need to be amongst other people and whatnot.
White noise and
so
humanity.
you found two things environmentally.
Yeah.
One is the co-working space, beautiful. So now you've got that. So I love that because you're, what's happening in the space. It's got the right amount of buzz or focus. Like, you want to find that right environment that has maybe the right amount of, for one person, a co-working space is not good because maybe there's movement and noise and that's like disruptive. Totally. And then I know some people who they need like cubicle, kind of like a box with no windows. And then there's other people.
That's me
there.
for sure.
No, Aaron and I are a very yin yang. Yeah. Yin yang, baby.
The funniest thing because I hear these very oddly specific things from clients. And so the funniest one I heard is in terms of the best place he got focused is actually the toilet. He goes on the toilet.
That's not that weird. That's not that weird. I'm with your buddy. I'm totally with your buddy. I get so much. Look, everybody's all like, Steven goes to the bathroom right before podcast start. And I'm like, Steven is doing work right before podcast start. I think for your friend and for me, the toilet or that area, again, these are highly controlled spaces. You're only in there for a reason. And you're unlikely to get distracted by humanity for that reason unless you're doing it in a public toilet.
Right.
So I get it.
You can do your deepest work on the
You can do your deepest work on the porcelain throne.
It works in all sorts of ways. I had a client who really was looking, to get his sales up. He works for himself. And, questions that are always good to ask is when have things been easy for you? Or like when have you done it in the past that it's easy or fun or whatnot? And he's like, when I'm on the road, when I'm driving,
I was just going to ask.
The best sales calls when I'm driving.
Hell yeah. Hopefully not while driving. No, yeah.
Yeah.
But in motion, though, I want you to speak to motion, Elan, because trains for me are the best, actually.
Aaron probably would have a really good perspective on this. Like, why is it that, in the car is so good? Like, I know some things as well, but there is something to the car because you're already making progress. There's the right level of stimulus where, the hum of the vehicle, all that stuff. It's just, and it's sort of happening on autopilot.
White noise. Almost to the point of white noise, a hum, right? It's a consistent sound with no change for a while.
You might not be being still, but you're contained. And you're in a vehicle, in a seat, in a room, whether it's the shower, the bathroom, whatever it might be, right? But you're in a space for a certain amount of time, right? You might be traveling from one place to another, or, the shower is 15 minutes or whatever the thing is. So you're in a distinct amount of time in a certain space. But then, like you said, there's enough background stimuli that's happening that you're not understimulated, right? It's not complete silence and nothing happening. It's not like a chamber that you're just,
No, it's not a silent a sensory deprivation tank.
What you're doing is you're in a space where now you kind of took the pressure off yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? You're not having to respond to people or do other things for others. You're just kind of like in a captivated space for a certain amount of time. And I think the act of being able to take your brain off of something for a little bit, right? It's like kind of that phenomena when you go for a walk and you're maybe not actively thinking about the thing, but you somehow come to an epiphany or realization.
Mind-wandering space.
Yeah, it allows that, I think, default mode network to kind of chew on things and act and be active in the background. And then at a certain point, you might come up with certain ideas that and make connections that you hadn't made when you were trying to force it. Because when we force it, when we're just sitting there and we're like, I need to come up with this right now. Why isn't it coming to me? But then when we take the pressure off, we're like, all right, put it aside. Let me just go for a walk. All of a sudden, your brain can kind of click in at that point.
You definitely nailed it with like so many aspects of this, like the fact that you have nowhere to go, like you're trapped in this car, so but you're not feeling trapped, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually stay there for longer. So if someone can't sit for long periods of time, the pressure is reduced because there's less of a performance that needs to happen. But there's another thing that I'm just realizing that, as we go back to the toilet one and this one, is I think there is an extra dopamine hit that happens because you're doing thing A, but you're completing thing B and C as well.
Oh,
And
we
I
love
think
that.
there's an
Yeah, we love a double tap.
you're getting
Yeah.
an extra bonus, like I'm
Definitely.
completing the two things simultaneously, that I think just goes deep into the cells of the, I don't know exactly. I'm not talking, I mean, actually scientifically, but I mean, I think something is
You're
like,
talking about the poo for one theory.
The poo for one. Exactly. Aaron, that was genuinely really fucking funny. That was genuinely a really good dad joke.
I know.
God, was
David's laughing.
that
I
was
know.
classic.
and it sounded official. Poo for one theory. He added theory at the end.
I'm the professional comedian in this space, and I'm sitting here going, there's got to be a fucking funny way to spin this. And Aaron comes in and steals that 3-pointer. That was so good. Yeah, it's the poo for one theory. But I'm going to jump in because we laughed and made a break. I do want to distinguish, because I think we didn't do a perfectly imperfect job of distinguishing between moving and not moving. Because I agree with everything Aaron said, but I want to underscore what Elan is saying, that there's also something about momentum and movement. Like plane, train, car is fundamentally different for me than cubicle or bathroom. Period. And the difference is the movement. I find that I've grown into anxiety and a generalized anxiety disorder co-occurring with ADHD. And I find that I have momentum-based anxiety. So if I have momentum, or if I've entered flow state and someone or something stops me, my anxiety is triggered. Depending on how long I am frozen in that place, my anxiety exponentially increases every minute. Right?
It is interestingly how acutely aware you are of it, because something I'm always looking at. So I normally describe progress or momentum equals fuel. And so for ADHD, or at least the entrepreneurs I work with, the times that they are more struggling in terms of like stress or anxiety around things, it's usually when the progress isn't happening, or it's happening slower than they're wanting.
Something's interfering with their momentum. Yeah, I think what Elan's getting to is that like momentum is that fuel. It's the motivation that ADHDers need, right? We can't count on having motivation coming out of these other places that neurotypicals have, where it's like importance or other things like that. We have more interest-based nervous system. And what we need then, in the absence of natural motivation, when we have to do boring, tedious things that we're expected to do for our jobs or for our personal responsibilities, what we need to have in those times is something else that we can count on. And that, I think, is where momentum comes in. How do we build the behavioral activation and momentum to get started, and to build enough of that momentum to then keep going?
Trains do that. I just want to be really clear with Aaron's point. Trains are already moving. So when I'm on that train or plane, I don't have to do the heavy lifting of creating momentum. It's been created mechanically for me. Is the point.
You know, I've never like sat to think about like what is underlying. Why is it that when there's momentum and progress, people feel the fuel keeps going? I just had this thought of the fact that feedback, like we need, the more immediate the feedback for the ADHDer,
micro rewards.
So the more delayed we are from the impact or consequence or the whatever happens, that's number one. Is when we are seeing momentum, how do we know it's momentum? You're seeing, like, you're literally seeing progress. You're on a train from point A to B. You see that you are moving. And the second piece is, how do we measure? A lot of the issues is living in sort of like a sea of ambiguity, or like lack of clarity it was one of the issues. And so a lot of times people are not as clear as to like what is winning in whatever they're doing, or the task, or clarity around the thing. So when we see progress, it's showing us like in order for us to feel progress, we also need to have some clarity as to where the progress is coming from, and there's some more specifics around it.
Yeah, like our intentions Yeah, I think that's one of the places we get stuck, is if we get overwhelmed and we're like, we have a big goal, we have something we're needing to work on. It's a project, it's a goal. If we ask ourselves, where am I stuck? Right? Instead of the why can't I do this kind of thing that I think a lot of people go to, which is more of a shaming, guilt ridden way of framing it. But instead we kind of look at more of a like solution oriented approach. Like, what can I do about this? Or where am I stuck? What's the obstacle? Right. And sometimes it's enough to just say, can I get more clear? Am I too ambiguous? Is the goal too broad, too big? Is there too many steps? Is there still unanswered questions that I need clarity on? Am I waiting for other people to give me some information to make progress or to make a choice? And as soon as we can see that path and it emerges, right? If we can visualize a way forward, we're no longer stuck, because then now all of a sudden we know what we need to do. We just need to activate ourselves and get on that path. So clarifying our intention, our goal, visualizing that plan and that way forward helps us to get started. It's like the pre-start kind of thing, right?
Yeah. The metaphor and the reality are dancing beautifully here. That's what I'm trying to highlight for our audience, because I'm the art queer in this room, right? So the arty queer is saying, hey, you guys, literal and poetic are dancing right now, right? Because the poetry, the metaphor of being on a train, a plane, a bike, a car, is that it's literally what you just described beautifully, Aaron, right? There's a goal, there's a destination, there's clarity, there's a pre-flight checklist. Where's my bag? Have I stretched? Am I ready for this ride? Do I have my laptop and my charger? I open it up. The only place in the world I've ever been excited to do taxes is on a train. I'm not kidding. It's because I know where I'm going. There's a metaphor for what I need to do on my laptop. I'm sitting in the metaphor. Does that make sense to you guys? I'm sitting in the metaphor while the train takes me to a destination, and it supports me.
Interestingly, I think it was Cal Newport who said that he writes, maybe it was someone he interviewed, that writes his book while he's like, flying, like
I think that must be his movement.
I don't know if it was him or someone else, but I remember a story where it's like someone just bought this like plane ticket all the way to China, just a long international plane
to write their book,
just to write their book. And they weren't even going to stay. They just booked it there and had to return.
So this is now full circle to the road trip guy, because with the road trip, he had to convince his wife why he's leaving 2 kids, and her at home for 48 hours. Because he came up with the idea of a 48-hour road trip campaign, and he got his assistant to help line up 48 sales calls. And he came back with a load of cash, essentially. Wow. And over the next 3 and 6 months, and the follow-ups that happened from those 48 hours were just astronomical.
That's such
in perspective,
awesome
it was slightly more than half of previous year's income that came in from that campaign.
In 48 hours. In 48 hours.
48 hours. And then the 2 more times he followed up, 3 and 6 months out from that. So it's sort of weird sometimes to do these things. Wait, you're just going to buy. I love this plane to China story, but obviously it works. So I love it when people lean into these oddly specific ways that work for them. And now, Stephen, you're going to have to book more train.
I've thought about it actively. Not for my taxes, but for blog posts. Aaron and I, we've activated every bucket of content imaginable, and Substack's one of them. And I have had the thought many times this summer, maybe I just need to take a freaking train somewhere, and then I'll write
do some writing.
Do some writing, because and I'm so thankful both of you bring up the 48-hour drive and the flight to China. I have definitely grown into some mature wisdom where I look at that and I go, you go, Glenn Coco. That is somebody who is integrating and knows themselves so well that they're standing in their power and their confidence. No, I'm sorry, hubby or wifey. I know that I'm leaving you for what sounds like an incredibly silly reason, but it will pay dividends because I know myself so well.
We hold ourselves back because we're constantly thinking and comparing ourselves to other people, especially neurotypical folks, and saying, I should be able to do it this way. Why am I not able to do it like they are? And I think what you're getting to, Elan, is embracing the fact that, hey, we need to do what works regardless of if other people think it's silly, stupid, embarrassing,
Totally.
non-adult, whatever is the
Who
judgment,
cares? Yeah.
just embrace it and say, yeah, you know what? This works and I'm going to do it and I'm going to own this. This is my ADHD.
Own your weird. Own your strange.
And don't hold back. Like, forget what anyone else thinks.
So
Yeah.
here was a fun question in my interviews. It'd be cool to hear your responses. Was I want you to picture that you've got some sort of goal, like a destination that you're working towards. Like think of some sort of or past goals, and you have some sort of mode of transportation that's going to get you there. So part one is, what is the mode or vehicle? Part B is, describe the path that this vehicle mode takes.
And does the goal have to attach to the idea of a vehicle, or is this like, I have a life goal, now pick a vehicle and now pick a path?
When you think about yourself going after some goals,
Yeah.
and you've got some goal out there in the distance on this map, you're right now at point A and you're trying to get to point B. What vehicle or mode of transportation would best describe you? Like, would you best characterize you? And how would you characterize the path that this thing takes?
That's good. Good. And tough.
I have a very tangible goal right now. One of my goals is to move to Costa Rica, relocate, move to Costa Rica. And I think in terms of the mode of transportation, it would be a plane. I describe the path as a bumpy path with, it's not necessarily smooth or even. And it's not a straight forward path either. There's a lot of twists and turns and places to kind of park and collect yourself along the way, resting spots, let's say. The path is not it's not a linear path, but it's a forward momentum path.
So your mode of transportation is an airplane, and that airplane, now just to understand, it goes up in the air and starts going, but it touches down, or does it somehow stop in midair and float in a specific location?
All right. Well, so we're mixing our metaphors here, but obviously there's a plane to a place where you drive a car. So I'm kind of thinking like, maybe the
Aaron
plane
has chosen the literal vehicle that will get him to Costa Rica.
Yeah. But let's say
I'm talking in the metaphor.
Yeah,
we obviously know the plane is going straight there.
What's the vehicle that describes Aaron on this journey?
Well, here's why I'd say it has both. Okay.
I like the plane because I had some ideas as to why it would be a plane, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, like I'll describe mine and then you can tell me if you were having the same thoughts, Elan. But I would say at the beginning, right, we have to like do a whole bunch of logistical things and planning and building house and working with our architect, working with, like selections of materials, like all sorts of stuff, right? Legal, custom, like, lawyers.
A lot of red tape.
Lots of logistical things. And for that's the plane where it's like, I'm just flying through this stuff. I'm trying to do it pretty much as fast as possible.
It feels like a jet. It feels linear.
I'm moving
just burn through it.
One thing after the other. And as you know, like things in Costa Rica, they do take a lot of time. Like where this is not a, it's not a like efficiency focused country, right? It's the pura vida, right? They're letting things flow in its natural time frame.
For those that don't know, and there's no way the listeners would know, but I actually met you guys at neurodiversion, and I flew in from Costa Rica, and that's how Aaron, you and I connected on the Costa Rican thing. I witnessed. I had to get something changed for our golf cart, and I just had to get them to recreate 3 like 1-foot cables, like thin electrical cables. It took probably 90 minutes and 3 staff members. I don't want to poo-poo on Costa Rica. I love Costa Rica. It was great, but I was like really trying to figure out how they could take that long to do.
Tell them what pura vida means. Tell them what pura vida means. Not everybody speaks Spanish listening to this. It means pure life. It means pura vida, like it live the sweet life. So like the greeting in Costa Rica is chill.
Live and let live kind of.
They're really nice about it.
They're super like, pura vida, man, like chill. Like, hey, aren't we all having a chill time? Is the energy down there.
Except they didn't know my pregnant wife was waiting in the heat, and I had the car with the air conditioning, and I had dropped her off, and I'm like, oh, this will probably take me 20 minutes, and I come back 90 minutes later. So classic ADHD, wife being like, yeah, you said it'd be 20 minutes. I had no idea that could take that long.
Yeah. So that's where we pick up on the story again, is like, yes, so things will take longer than we expect.
I get it. The plane has to land.
Yeah, the plane lands, and then I expect things will take a long time. And as my friend Ben said, because he's built a few houses over his time, and I was telling him about my journey to Costa Rica and building this house. He's like, "You're just at the beginning. But, tell me how it goes in 6 months, right?" He's just like smiling at me like in a knowing way, like, you're still at the very beginning. I'm like, well, yeah, the plan's almost done. We're in this approval stage. He's like, okay, you're at the beginning. And I know, like, so that's where the car comes in, is like, all right, now we got to travel this road, which seems long. Like I'm imagining really this like road from like actually like San Jose, right? To San Mateo, which where I'm going to be living. And it's like a 45-minute to, let's say, an hour, depending on traffic, time of day. And I'm just imagining, I have to go through different roads, different environments, different obstacles. And some of the things I can control, some of the things I can't control. And I may have to like use a lot of acceptance along this path of, that's okay. That's the way it's going to be. That's how much time it's going to take, right? Be flexible.
Yeah. I love this analogy of the airplane. I'm glad you chose it. It's neat as a metaphor because you only take airplanes to go far places, and you land normally in a completely different environment, which you are. Your goal is you're really going to a like completely different environment. And I feel like when you get out of that airplane, you've gone quite a journey. So I'm looking forward to it. And you're just at the beginning, sounds like, but you're en route.
Oh yeah. It's happening. And that's I think that's the momentum and the forward progress that we keep coming back to. Is what's so important about this is no matter how people get too attached to the outcome as the goal.
Yeah.
And what we want people to focus on, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is kind of the thing I do with my coaching clients, right? Is we focus more on progress over outcomes. And we do that because like if we're overly focused on the outcome, then we get fixated on this thing of the way we're expecting it to happen.
So question for you.
Yeah.
So, because I think we've all heard the term of like, it's the journey, not the destination kind of thing. Like, so we know the cliche, and it's true. And we all know it. But from a practical standpoint, it's a whole other thing, like, right, to apply these things. And I'm curious, and for those listening here, because all of us, including myself, like, how can I stay more present into the journey? What kind of ways do you support that, or do you see help people with that?
How I do this with clients is obviously we have to have a goal. We have to set a goal, right? If we don't have a goal, there is no way to get there, because if you're not clear with your intentions on where you're going, where you're headed, you need a destination. But the key is, don't get overly fixated on your version, right? The future hasn't happened yet.
Right.
We're at best 50%. It's 50% likely that whatever you think is going to happen may or may not happen, right? So we're just guessing, right? It's almost random chance. So we're 50%. There's a 50% chance that like could go either way, right? Something could happen. The thing you think that's going to happen in the future, if this is a longer term projection, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, a lot of life happens in between. And so it's good to have a clear idea of what you want, but I think let it go, right? So once you set that, kind of let go of how fixed you are to that specific outcome, and focus more on the process, the day-to-day routine, structure, process, and almost what I would say is like work clients to look at their values, right? Am I aligning my values and my behaviors with that thing I want to achieve? Because it doesn't matter if you eventually get there in 6 months or if you get there in 2 years. If you are working at it day to day, you're going to get there faster. And if you have a clear process, it'll happen way better than if you're waiting for or hoping for kind of like something to happen outside of yourself, and you're trying a bunch of stuff and you're not clear on what your process is, and you're restarting every day and you're just scrambling and doing random stuff towards this end. And I think that's what happens is people get so focused on like, oh, I want to have this new job, or I want to be at this state in my career, or I want to have a reality that they think is there. And when we focus on that, we're actually taking ourselves out of the present. It's really important to be very present with whatever you're doing, because the more present we are surrounding this, and if it aligns with the values that we hold dear, we're going to be happier along the way. We can't expect that destination is going to bring us this ultimate satisfaction or happiness. That's a fleeting thing. And we need to expect that it's not going to, if I'm not happy now with who I am now and what am I doing? How am I spending my energy and my time now? I'm never going to be happy when I get there. If I get there, that thing is not going to make me happy. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's when I think about my goal, right? This like Costa Rica thing. A lot of people, I think, move to a new country or into this big shift, and they think it's going to solve all the problems in their life. Mm. Oh, I'm going to retire and I'm going to move to this place and it's going to, everything will be better. No, you end up bringing all of those problems with you.
It's labeled as a reward exclusively, right? And rewards can't be work. Rewards are gifts, right? So yeah, that's like when you said retire in particular, right? I'm going to retire and move to this place and everything will be solved because that's the reward. I won. And it's like, no, you still got to, like, the house will fall apart. Maybe there will be rainstorm.
There still will be problems. There still will be life. There still will be things you have to adjust to.
Life keeps lifing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like we've said this in other podcasts, but I'll repeat it again because I want to emphasize this point that our happiness exists between the gulf of our expectations and the reality. And so if we can set more realistic expectations for ourselves, we find more satisfaction and contentment and less of this expectation of this unrealistic expectation of this will solve everything. Everything will be better if I just get fill in the blank.
Right.
That doesn't exist.
It's an interesting one, right? Like how to maintain more presence. I think people can probably relate to having some sort of activity that they do get into flow states for. Like, you know, for me, it might be surfing or running or rock climbing. But like everyone sort of probably has something that maybe is easier flow states. Maybe it's watching Netflix, whatever it is, you know, where they're just in the thing that they're doing. What I find and what came from the research study was that the entrepreneurs that were ultra successful, they were able to really focus on what was important to move the thing forward.
Yeah.
Even if the thing was, let's say, scary or could fail or whatnot, they still were able to put some sort of boundaries or guardrails or whatever it is. They made sure that they always put that time in and they would obsess about it. And each person has like a different area of strength, expertise of what they would be focused on. But the ones that had made it all did also have some sort of catastrophic failure at some point. Like some serious like life or business failure that sort of taught them that like, oh shit, I can't keep working this way. I need to be more realistic with my expectations, or I cannot start new projects until I have a project manager, or I cannot start a new business unless I have an operator. I cannot, you know, like some sort of thing that keeps them focused in their lane and making sure that they're doing the things each week.
So what you're saying is they need to have two elements. They need to have one, this underlying purpose. What's the drive? What's the why? As Simon Sinek says, right? It's like, know your why, right? You got to know what's important, like about this. why am I doing this? Because that, even though we're not motivated exactly by importance in the short run, right? In the long run, we are. We're motivated by purpose.
It'll come for you regardless. Yeah, yeah.
If we don't see the purpose in doing something, we're not going to do it.
You're not
gonna
going to
Oh,
finish
yeah.
it. No,
And we're not
you're
going to
gonna finish
overcome
it.
the challenges, those challenges that inevitably will happen along the way, those setbacks, those failures, the annoying things that come up. We will persist if we know, hey, this is part of this. This is okay.
Yeah, people need to understand too when they commit to going after a thing. Like, just because you've committed doesn't mean it's going to feel comfortable necessarily. Like, it's going to require courage. There's this Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, has this great framework, and it's like you start with commitment, and then with the commitment to the thing, you need courage. And from the commitment and courage, you start taking steps, like courageous ones, right? And then you start to build the competence. And then from the competence, confidence will come from it. But the point is
Yeah.
that the early phase of like courage doesn't necessarily feel great. Like, it's going to be maybe scary. You're taking on something that you don't have the skills necessarily. Like, presumably you're putting out a goal. It's something you haven't done before. Like you're trying to like move to a new country and also build a custom home for yourself. So, right, you're learning so much. You don't have the competence of like real estate development in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
By the end of this, you'll like know so much. Yeah, you already know so much more than you started.
Yeah.
And you'll feel confident. You'll be like, you know what? The next house, this is how I would do it.
Yeah. And I think the other element, right, that you talked about is how do we set the guardrails or the boundaries or the necessary parts of this to keep moving forward? And whether that's, I need an administrative assistant, I know that. I need a personal assistant, I need a financial coach, I need an ADHD coach, I need a therapist, I need whatever those people that you need in your network that you surround yourself with that are going to be critical to your success and for you to sustain that. That's what I think you're saying is like the other piece of this is it might be a group, right? Or it might be an individual. It might be something that you do that you know, hey, if I continue to show up and do this thing and I get the support that I need, the scaffolding around me from this thing or these people, then I know that I'll be able to keep going.
Right.
Too many times I think we try to do everything alone. And I'm totally guilty of this too. I'm a very kind of independent oriented person, but probably to a fault sometimes, right? Where like I realize like, no, I can't do this alone. I need the people around me to continue to like make that progress and to support me in this growth. Because if not, it comes all the way full circle to the beginning, right? It's that social connection. And I think it's the collaboration component of things. When we do something in isolation, it's lonely. When we do it in collaboration, we build connection.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of things that are coming to mind to me. One is I noticed in terms of self-acceptance of, for example, weaknesses, the ones that were more successful were actually more self-accepting and understanding of those weaknesses and willing to actually like address that more specifically by creating some sort of boundaries of like, I'm not allowed to touch finances, like someone else has to do that for me or whatever that is.
Owning your weaknesses and then but doing something about it, filling the gap, just not being like, well, okay, I'm bad at this, I must give up. No, it's like, well, okay, what? So I know that this is an area that I'm not great at, but who is? Who can support me? What do I need to still move forward and be successful?
And that whole connection piece as well. So for example, I have this like content club where people show up. There's like 2 meetings a week. It's body doubling and some collaboration time with other people who are trying to produce content online of anywhere from writing a book or creating marketing, social media posts or whatnot. But yeah, there's something about the structure of those meetings. So a lot of the people who show up, it's like they know these are things that they want to do and they know they want to do. They schedule themselves to do it. And then they don't show up to that time for themselves. So, they schedule to come into this group because, they'll see some familiar faces. They get to pitch their idea and get some feedback and then have a bit more fun. It just cuts a little bit of the of doing things alone. So there's so many like co-working platforms or other way. There's ways for people to work alongside other people, whether if you have like staff members. So I'm sure you guys have talked about body doubling on this at some point, but for whoever's listening, if you haven't tried body doubling yet, do try it. It's a simple thing of just working alongside someone else virtually or in person. And we know that people can stay focused for longer periods. And there's tons of really great and very affordable like platforms where you can practically find people to work with at any time of the day on demand. It's like incredible.
Yeah, like FocusMate.
FocusMate's amazing. I refer so many, even though we have co-working in our company, like we offer, I get people on FocusMate all the time because I call it like the vending machine for co-working. Like you want a snack, like if you ever need, to just like get 25 to 75 minutes of, someone's time to work alongside, you could just like go in there and find anyone.
Yeah. If you need that random out of the blue time where you need to clean something or do something and it's not an opportune time, like it's not something where Elan is probably going to be online at that point, right? Or his group's maybe not meeting at that point. It's like, well, this is the filling in the gap because FocusMate pairs you with someone around the world. So there's always someone somewhere who is like, well, it's 9 a.m. at my time, right? And it might be 9 p.m. on your time. And it's going to pair you with that person. And you can work on whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's like a personal project, cleaning the house, or a work project, planning your day, doing your expense report, whatever it is. And it'll just help you actually get that thing done. It's an amazing tool.
If you guys aren't sponsored by them yet, they should reach out and sponsor the show.
Hey, FocusMate, if you listen to this.
It'll be sooner rather than later.
I think I might have a referral link, or if you have FocusMate, they might have a referral link for a free month. But it's so cheap; it's $10 a month, and it's like free if you use it like 2 or less times a week. I feel like it's so ethical. It's not like they're trying to make bank.
Yeah, they're not trying to like make a killing here. They think they have a model where they're helping. They just do it to help people, and I love that. We don't plug every product on this podcast, right?
We do not. No.
We try to plug stuff that we use or we believe in, right?
Can I share with you something that recently has worked for me, like in the past week? I'm really proud of.
So this couldn't possibly be the place to do that.
So I have been working. I'm just like personally proud of this. I've been wanting to go to sleep earlier for years. I'm the kind of person that I have like FOMO at night. I just don't want to go to sleep. I don't want the day to end. I just want to do anything but sleep. So tried a bunch of things, but finally this showed up yesterday. This is a small earbud that you can wear to sleep.
Some sleep earbuds.
Sleep earbuds. So they're like super narrow. I bought them off of Amazon for like $40. And it's amazing because I've been using my other headphones for 3 weeks now. And so I'm trying to get my sleep up. And I finally, I think I was at like 7 hours on average before. And now I'm at 8 the last week. And I use brain.fm, but I essentially use some like music that's for sleep.
So brain.fm.
I use brain.fm, but I mean, people can use anything. I like brain.fm because you can actually like, you go in and it's like, what music do you want? Like, what do you want the music for? And so you literally click sleep and then it just puts on the sleep thing for 8 hours. There's something that allows me to get into bed because I've got the music. Because what's annoying for me is being in bed for longer than a few minutes and not falling asleep. Like that time is very painful. And then I just get up and get out of bed. But I find with the music, it's like I can be in bed and not fall asleep for 5 to 45 minutes. And, I'm sort of dozing away, but I'm not quite asleep, but I don't get up. So far it's working really well.
Great. Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Do you know what the earbuds are called? Someone wants to look this up?
So I think it's called Sweet Dreams. These ones are blue, metallic blue. But the beauty of Amazon is you can't, like, if it doesn't work, you could just return it really easily. So it's an easy experiment. Like when I work with clients, it's always like 7-day sprints and we run an experiment. So, okay, we're trying to work on finishing this project. We also want to upgrade some way that you're approaching your work and whatever is impacting you. So if we know sleep is an issue, example for me, if I was coaching myself, it'd be like, what experiment will we do this week to support your sleep? This would be like, okay, we'll try this and we'll see how it goes in a week from now.
Tell us more about that, because like the sprint idea comes from the kind of tech space. A lot of tech companies use sprints. And how do you structure that with ADHD clients?
Yeah. So when I start working with people, there's an intake assessment. And from that, it has them answer all sorts of questions around their goals and particularly around challenges. And so we find out how much are those obstacles right now: procrastination, perfectionism, analysis paralysis, all sorts of, or disorganization, whatever. After the intake assessment, we build a roadmap. It's like visual. Essentially, they've got their goals and they've got like work milestones. Okay, I want to, let's say, if they're I'm just thinking of someone recent was like a speaker and they wanted to land some speaking gigs. And so anyways, we build out these milestones. Okay, great. But then there's these like personal upgrades that we want to do, because things like if procrastination is 10 out of 10 getting in the way of their goal, we need to move. To me, that's urgent. I want to move it down the scale to, 4 to 7 out of 10 an issue, and then eventually down to like good enough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do it is when we build out our 7-day sprint cycle. So, okay, in the next 7 days, these are like the 3 most important things for you to accomplish. And we have a document for that. In those things, which one of those are we trying to approach in a way that's very Aaron friendly, very your way of doing it. And so we'll come up with some sort of approach that they're going to do it. And so they have a clear plan and whatnot. And so if we know one of the challenges we're working on, for example, sleep, would be like, okay, we're going to experiment with this. Then the next week when we come back, it's like, okay, what worked? And if it worked, okay, let's pull that out as part of your playbook. That might become permanent. Like that's, okay, those sleep earbuds work. Cool. That's now your new thing, until it no longer works and we have to try something else. And when things don't work, then we want to assess, what was it that they think got in the way, or are they still committed to that? Then let's try a different method. So usually we're at least experimenting with one new way, but as the time progresses, each week people develop their specific way of approaching certain tasks. So they might know, okay, for example, that content club co-working time works really well. They've been putting off doing content forever. Okay, so that's now just part of their schedule, is like joining content club. Great.
Yeah. So you focus on something for 7 days, you have a sprint, and then they report back to you what works, what didn't work. And yeah, if it worked, then they incorporate that in.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
it's nothing like incredibly, rocket science in that sense, but the purpose of isolating very few deliverables is because everybody has a million things that need to happen throughout the week, like including not just work stuff, but life stuff.
How many focuses do you have people choose?
I tend to like somewhere around 3 things. And so what we're trying to do is, part of it is the prioritization. Like we want to pick, we know the big picture goals, just like what's going to actually make the most progress this week towards those goals. And so I don't worry about all the other aspects in life that and in work that they need to do, because those will somehow either find their way to get done or they won't get done, but it won't be as catastrophic. Like what I care about is like, what are the things that will actually help you get this thing to the finish line.
Oh, nice.
So because a lot of people are like, there's lots of things that they're doing and it's not an issue. It's the things that they're avoiding typically. That's the thing we care about. The thing that's like,
Right.
okay, this is hard. There's things you're avoiding that it's okay to avoid, or like there's not much consequence. But then there's actually, hey, like you said, Aaron, well, if your goal is this, but your behaviors, like if your goal is a sales goal and you're not making sales calls, your actions are not lining up with this destination you're going on. That's the key, is like pulling that out. And that it happens in pretty naturally. Like, what is the most important thing? I love it actually when people already have very, very, the fastest results are when people actually know exactly what they need to do and they're just not doing it. I find those people get the fastest results. The people who they don't know yet, it's more of the first time, or they don't have some other mentorship or other course or program or something they're following and they're figuring out all fresh, it'll take more time to figure out the pathway.
Yeah, they're designing the roadmap on the fly, essentially. Yeah,
but as long as people stay the challenge with ADHD is it's also blinders, right? Like it's really easy to avoid things that are not working. Like I find that people, and this is not just ADHDers, it's like everyone, there's things that are uncomfortable and we don't want to talk about, whatever. It's easier to just avoid dealing with it. And so, for example, the taxes, if if the accountant's not asking you for your tax or whatever, we're not getting the immediate feedback. So that's where any sort of coach just asking you, what's been challenging this week.
Yeah. How's that going? Are you confronting that thing that you said you were focused on last week? Yeah. Oh, you're still avoiding it. Okay. Yeah. It's like, as Carl Jung kind of says, what we resist tends to persist. Right. And I think that's particularly true when we avoid things. What we avoid are usually the very important things, the very thing we should be focusing on.
And it's really hard because typically if we're avoiding it, there is like a physical resistance to it. Like, and I think people who don't have ADHD don't think understand that there is like a physical component, an emotional component as much to that avoidance when you know what the thing is. And that's where actually your values things comes really into play. Because typically, so I like to think of that feeling of putting something off as an indicator, like it's kind of like an alarm, being like, okay, either this thing is possibly going to lead to something really good, or it could fail on the other end. So you're scared of it. But there's like a really good outcome on the other side if this goes your way. Or something's not in alignment with your values. Like something's missing in your values with this. And so, because if everything was aligned, then it would come more naturally. Like, for example, maybe the thing is just boring and you really value fun. And it's just like, okay, yeah, this thing is not fun whatsoever. Okay, well, yeah, that might explain partly why, you're not doing this thing.
Well, you could not be describing this podcast because, if anything, we've had a bunch of fun today talking. So I'm here to wrap it out. We're going to hear about my vehicle metaphor another day. Today, we've talked about everything under the sun as it tends to setting goals, intentions, avoiding obsessing over the destination or the results of the work, but instead diving deeper into the work, into relishing and loving the work. And we have also a great host of tools to do that with through Elan Marko's company. So if you could give us your pluggables, Elan, this is that time. We want to hear where we can find you online, where our listeners can find out more, work with you and your team more, and all the rest.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in coaching for entrepreneurs, www.deepworksprints.com. That's basically the best place to find us and reach out to us. We also do have a thing where for someone, we do about 10 of these a month for people who don't have, who want a coaching session to build a roadmap towards solving one of the challenges that they're currently facing. They can reach out to us and we can book those in. And otherwise, yeah, if anybody wanted to be part of any research, there's also a place on the website for that. And that content club, if people are like struggling or wanting more collaboration, ways to make it easy and fun. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Deepworksprints.com.
Everybody head over to deepworksprints.com. We highly encourage and recommend. And when can we see you next, Elan? Are you going to be at the ADHD conference, St. Louis?
So my wife is we're expecting a new baby in like a month. So basically
congrats.
nothing.
That's an okay reason. Okay reason.
I have nothing planned between now and March.
Good.
Makes sense.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Got your priorities straight there. Yeah.
No 48-hour trips to China?
You want to go together?
I mean, only if we're writing and not visiting China at all. And coming back home.
I do actually have a writing project, but I think I would prefer a cabin. Do you want to do a cabin in the woods?
Yeah, I would also prefer a cabin because it probably costs significantly less than a trip to China and back to write anything.
If you enjoy what you hear, check us out, attentiondifferent.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe. We are on YouTube. If you want to see more videos and the video version of these podcasts, be sure to go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@attentiondifferent. Till next time.
Adios.